Okay. Oops. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting on Thursday, the 10th of April, 2025 at 4 p.m. A little bit of housekeeping before we start, as usual. May I remind everyone present that this hybrid meeting of the Planning Committee is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet and this recording archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please raise their hand in person if sat in the chamber or use the remote raise hand function. If a participant raises their hand via the remote function and is not subsequently invited to speak by myself, please could they turn their camera on to indicate or place a message in the chat function. When invited to address by me, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating. If this is not possible for any reason, please bring this to the attention of myself and or the Democratic Services Officer as soon as possible. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues and or to grab the attention of myself or Democratic Services Officer. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard, when they are addressing the committee, they should let me or the Democratic Officer know. So please could I welcome all committee and non-committee elected members, our officers, public speakers, residents, and also to anyone watching the live meeting broadcast. So moving on to the agenda proper. First item is apologies for absence. I take it we have none. Agenda item 2 then, to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interests under the Council's Code of Conduct. Councillor Cowpe.
Thank you, Chair. I'm declaring a personal and prejudicial interest in item 2024/01104/FUL, land south of Westra, Dinas Powys. I live on this road, although I do not feel the proposed development affects me, as I live at the other end of the road, and I do not believe that as a homeowner I have a right to a view. I have not made and will not be making a personal objection to this property, although I reserve my right to do so in the future should my view change. I was not consulted as a resident of this road. I've already considered this application as a member of Dinas Powys Planning Committee, and the matter of the access lane has been discussed by Dinas Powys Community Council, where I declared an interest and left the room for the discussion. The committee should be aware that an email to myself asking me to withdraw this call-in has been copied to some councillors and some officers, but not to all. I've received several other emails with the same instruction, the content of which could be interpreted as inappropriate. I am seeking advice in relation to these matters. From my perspective, I have been elected to carry out this role on behalf of my constituents. This is a legitimate call-in. Withdrawal is not possible or in the public interest. I have received strong local objections, and in making decisions regarding call-ins, I am mindful of the guidance and abide by it. I have good reasons and authority to do this. Those reasons still stand. I've taken advice about this from the monitoring officer, and I have been advised that I can speak to this item and that I should leave the room for the discussion and the vote. And I would be grateful to you, Chair, if you could tell me when I should leave the room. Is it straight after I present? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Cowpe. Yes, I can confirm that you should leave the room immediately after you've spoken.
Thank you.
Oh, well, actually, you should stay for a few seconds to see whether there's any matters that members that want to bring up from what you've said, and then after that, leave the room.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, moving on then. Agenda item 3, building regulation applications and other building control matters determined by the Head of Sustainable Development under delegated powers. These are for noting.
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much for that.
Second that as well.
Yeah, so that's moved and seconded. Agenda item 4, planning applications determined by the Head of Sustainable Development under delegated powers. Again, these are for
Councillor Ernest has got his hands raised function, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Ernest, you got your hand raised. Do you have a declaration or something?
In respect of agenda item 4, Chairman, could I just refer members to the application for the new school at Lower Cosmiston Farm, which I know has been given approval by officers. My concern is that this is a major development. Obviously, I know it relates to non-material amendments, but the issue is that it's right on the boundary between or virtually on the boundary between the Plymouth ward and the Sully ward. And certainly I was not consulted as a neighbouring ward councillor, nor indeed my colleague Councillor Rees-Thomas. I think, Chairman, and I'm sure you would agree with me, that where these applications are on the border or very near the border, that the adjacent ward members should be consulted, if only by as much as a courtesy, as much as anything else. I'm sure that the amendments will be a great improvement on maybe what they were before, but would you agree with me that adjacent ward members should be consulted, and maybe you could take steps to ensure that this happens in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. I think there should be some consideration, and I will take this up with officers. I mean, it's how we define on the boundaries and on the edge and so on. Although I see Liam has just come on to put his view. Liam?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to discuss it with Councillor Ernest separately to this meeting. I mean, we're not considering the decision now, but did you say it was an NMA application, which is a non-material amendment application?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Because that isn't, yeah, just to clarify through Chair, that isn't a planning application. That's an application seeking a minor change to an existing planning permission. So we wouldn't ordinarily consult with members of the public or ward councillors in that instance. But as I say, happy to have a discussion separately with you, Councillor Ernest, and have a look.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I am grateful for that, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it does say that these are determined by the Head of Sustainable Development and delegated powers. So as Liam has just pointed out, they aren't normally, these particular ones aren't normally consulted, are sort of put out to the ward members to consider.
But they're before us for approval tonight, Chairman.
They're before us for approval. That's right.
Yeah.
So moving on, agenda item 5, trees. These are for. Oh, hang on, we haven't agreed to note agenda item 4 yet.
That's what I was going to come and say, Councillor Thomas. I think we need to move that we note.
Yeah, thank you. And it's seconded here as well. Thank you, Nick. Agenda item 5, trees. Again, this is the delegated list, and these are for noting.
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded.
You moved that we noted.
Yeah, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Hodges, both at the same time. So we come on to the agenda item 6, the meat of the matter, which is planning applications. There are matters arising which have been communicated to members of the committee, and we do have some people who wish to speak on this. Two local members wish to speak, and we have a speaker in support of the application as well. So I'll go first to Steve Butler to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just have the slides, please. So this is a full planning application for the construction of a commercial stable block, menage exercise area with an associated access and vehicle parking. Just have the next slide, please. The proposal itself is to accommodate as I said, a commercial development, which is for the breeding of Welsh Section D cob horses. So the application site, which is shown in front of you in red, that relates to an agricultural field with an associated access, which is located to the south of Westra and to the west of Dinas Powys. The field is approximately 2.9 hectares, and the site, although it's not shown on there, is diagonally intersected by a public right-of-way. If we could just go to the next slide, please. that provides you with a little bit more context. So the field in question, where the menage and the stable will be constructed, is broadly in the middle of the image before you. Just in terms of a bit of context, again, you can see the Westford to the north, you can see sort of Southford to the east, and just to the sort of just coming into the corner is Barrow Docks Link Road. So that just gives you a bit of context as to where the site's located. And the next slide, that shows a little bit more of a close-up of the field in question. The field that we're looking at is the darker field, and you can just about see the line of power cables that run sort of transects through the site. And then you've got the access sort of track or lane which runs up, which those two kind of parallel hedgerow lines which run up to join the Westford to the north. So if we could just have the next slide, please. That's again just an image of the existing layout. As you can see, the line of the public right of way is shown in purple. If we can have the next slide. That shows the layout of the proposed development. So the access track, firstly, is going to be constructed, which runs sort of northwest from the existing field access. I say runs diagonally then, and will abut the northern side of the menage to terminate next to the stable block with an area of vehicle parking. The track and the parking area will be constructed of a permeable surface such as gravel on a compacted stone subbase. The menage itself, which as you can see on the image, that measures 60 metres in depth by 40 metres in width. That would be surfaced in a soft sand and enclosed by an unpainted post and rail fence. The stable block, if we go to the next image, please. That's the layout of the stable block. So we've got 8 number stable stalls, 2 number foaling pens, which are located to the right. In addition to that, there's a feed and attack store and also a washdown area. And there's also a little small kind of welfare section of the building which accommodates WC and a kitchenette. The building itself has a total footprint of some 450 square metres. Next slide, please. So this is one of the elevations. So in respect of its size, the building would have a width of 14 metres and a depth of 35 metres. Have an eaves height of 4.1 and a ridge height of 5.2 metres. As you can see, they'll be finished in a profile metal cladding, with green to the walls and grey to the roof. If we could maybe run up to, if we could go back up to the site location plan. Possible. Keep going up. Okay, that's it. So the field will be accessed using the existing agricultural track, which is identified as the access lane on the proposed site plan. So the access lane is included within the application site and also obviously serves neighbouring fields. And as I said before, it provides access to Westford to the north. So to conclude, the development is considered acceptable with regard to the principle of development, visual impact on the countryside, trees, landscaping, neighbouring amenity, highway safety, ecology, drainage and flood risk, archaeology, green infrastructure and biodiversity. So the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Right, we move now to speakers. The first speaker, Councillor Marianne Cowpe. You have 5 minutes, Councillor Cowpe.
Right, starting now, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of local residents who've contacted me about this application. I did request a site visit, as you know, and some of the concerns regarding the site, which is changing from agricultural use to business use, might have been easier for this committee to understand if they had visually seen the site. However, this was declined by the chair. Dinas Powys Councillor Chris Franks will speak on behalf of Dinas Powys Community Council, and he will address the public right-of-way matter, so I will not cover that here. Concerns have been raised by many constituents to me and other councillors by phone and in person. It would be tempting to assume that all the concerns have been raised by constituents of the Westra, but this is not the case. Many people, both in the area and out with the immediate area, walk here frequently. Some of these concerns are documented on page 26 of the document. I'm reporting these concerns as they were reported to me on many occasions by a variety of different constituents. It's obvious to anyone who walks or overlooks this area that there is often a lot of surface water in this location. People walk wearing Wellington boots at certain times of year, and the surface water lies for weeks at times. The method of drainage on this site is not approved by Natural Resources Wales, and they object to this development. The council's drainage section noted that a detailed design of the water surface drainage will be required and stated that if approved, this should be a condition of approval. Watch Water state that they need access to their apparatus at all times. Since the gate to the access lane is locked, how is this to be achieved? Indeed, how is any emergency access to any incident on this land to be achieved in the future? The access lane is not wide enough for 2 vehicles to pass, except at the entrance, unless passing places are installed. This is not considered a necessary requirement for securing planning permission, but it is considered an operation requirement for the business. So my question is, will this be an operational requirement required from the day the business opens or at some later date? Water, electricity and building materials will need to be supplied down this access lane. There is no other route to the site for vehicles. Will the lane need to be reinforced to do this? All of this will cause more extra large vehicles on Westra. This is a narrow road with few passing places, no pavement, and schools, St Andrews Major and St Richard Gwyn on Arga Lane, at either end of the road. Not all residents on Westra were consulted yet. They will undoubtedly be affected by the increase in traffic. Regarding the building itself, there is kitchen, bathroom area and kitchen, presumably for staff who will occasionally be there for 24-hour periods. I'm thinking foaling, for example, or other times if horses need attention. According to the attached report, there are public sewers in the field, some of which the routes are not known. What danger is there, if any, to damaging the public sewers? If damage were to occur, how many households would be affected? How long would it take to rectify the damage, and who would pay for this work? Builders' rubbish from the applicant's land has been left on the access lane at times, which could hamper vehicle access. Turning now to the gate on the access lane, which I recognise is not strictly part of this application or the applicant's property. Access to the property in relation to this planning application is relevant, Chair, because everything has to arrive at the property. So it begs the question why the gate is not installed on the applicant's property rather than at the beginning of the lane, which is simultaneously of unknown ownership and private. I don't understand how it can be both. More than 100 years of custom and practice have been removed from local constituents by the installation and particularly the locking of this gate. It's itemised on page 32 of your report. And some constituents are terribly upset and unhappy. They've been instructed not to park there. Legal action has been mentioned. They have no access to walk the fields. There is now no circular route on this walk, as existing from the north end of the access lane is not possible. This affects people's enjoyment of this area. They are worried and concerned about what further unregulated changes will be made in the future, and I think that all of these inconsistencies go some way to explaining to the committee constituents' concern about this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cow. Do any members of the committee have any points of clarification they would like to raise with Councillor Cow based on what she said? No, here it is. I'm assuming, Councillor Franks, that this is your hand up because you want to speak. You're not a member of the committee, so it doesn't matter. In that case, Councillor Cow, there are no points of clarification, and I'll give you a minute to step out. Thank you, Councillor Cow. Okay, Councillor Franks, you have 5 minutes as per the rules and it'll start when you start.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. Colleagues have been informed of other aspects of this application, so I will focus on the public rights of way matters. This footpath forms an important part of the public right of way network. Now, Dinas Powys is very blessed with paths, and they are very well used. They reflect the historic nature of the community. This is one of the key routes between Dinas Powys and the west, so it is useful to also avoid what can be a busy and at times dangerous Westra road. There is a fear that this proposal risks interrupting the quiet enjoyment of this important route. It's unfortunate that the access lane that has been gated, as this has been an alternative route for walkers. It is possible that this lane goes back to medieval times, and my experience is that it is often flooded during adverse weather. I am concerned that the plan does not reflect the reality on the ground. This relates to the left-hand corner of the plan, the site plan, where the path is shown running parallel to the lane. I think this is not the reality on the ground, and I think committee should seek clarity on this point. So the bottom line is, Chair, that this path is important. The youth of this path must be protected, and I would encourage committee to think on these on that aspect of the plan as well as other aspects. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Again, does any member of the committee have any point of clarification with Councillor Franks? I see no hands, so I'm assuming not. In that case, we have one speaker. Yes, we have one speaker, Mr. Jones. Are you available, Mr. Jones? Mr. Powers.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. If I believe you have 3 minutes to speak in support of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, despite what Councillor Cowpe says, this is a non-controversial application. I like to deal in facts, and the facts are that in response to public consultation, including site notices and including notices in the press, only 2 members of the public objected. 2 members of the public, completely non-controversial. In relation to the access and drains raised by Councillor Cowpe, these are complete red herrings. The applicant has a right of access over the track in common with other farmers. And as far as the public right of way is concerned, you employ a footpath officer, an employee of the council who's been consulted, and he or she, I don't know which sex he or she is entirely satisfied that this development does not affect the public right of way. It's there in front of you in black and white in the officer report. There are no drainage issues associated with this application, and it's totally misleading for Councillor Cowpe to say that anyone in RW object to this application. They do not. They've cleared it. They're perfectly satisfied now with the means of drainage. They're perfectly satisfied that all the ecology reports are in place and have dealt adequately with all biodiversity interest on the site. I don't like councillors misleading other members, and I have to put these right in forcible terms, but that is the situation. As far as the highways aspect are concerned, again, it's misleading to say there's only one passing bay. We have shown a plan to the highways officers, submitted it, which shows at least 3 passing bays. No more passing bays will be required for a volume of traffic which is extremely low. You have a very comprehensive report in front of you, members. All the key issues have been identified. They've all been subject to detailed and comprehensive assessment, not only by your own officers, but all the consultees which regularly take part in assessing up planning applications. The outcome of the assessment is before you for all to see. All the key issues here are satisfied, and there's a recommendation for approval. Therefore, respectfully requested, Mr. Chair, that the officer recommendation be adopted. Thanks very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Are there any points of clarification from members of the committee in relation to what Mr. Jones has just been saying? Councillor Payne, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I just, one of the things that was raised about the ownership of the track. So I just wanted to query that really. So the owners are known, or is that just a bit of a red herring?
It's a complete red herring. Nobody knows who owns part of the truck. My client owns most of the truck, but part of it is in an unknown ownership. And in planning terms, there's a procedure in those situations. We have to advertise in the newspaper that an application is being made on a piece of land with an unknown ownership. That advertisement was duly advertised for 21 days. No response. We've made all kinds of inquiries as to who owns the land, and nobody's come up with any news for us. Asked all the local farmers, asked the lady who owns the house on top of the track. She doesn't know, nobody knows. But as I said, we've gone through the usual procedure with a special certificate as opposed to an ownership certificate. But what we do know is that the deed show clearly that all the farmers and my client who use the fields to the south of the Westra have the right of way to use that track. That's clearly established, no argument at all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Wilson, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation, Mr. Jones. Just a couple of points. Vehicle movements. How many extra vehicle movements would there be, firstly? And secondly, with the horses in the stables, how many times do you expect them to be out, and where are they going to go?
We produced quite a detailed traffic statement on this, and believe it or not, there will be not be an increase in traffic, and the reason is that the client's horses, all 9 of them at the moment, are kept in separate fields, and what happens is that they're all brought in horse boxes to this particular site because there's enough land there to graze, etc. at the moment. They're then taken away and stabled elsewhere. So a lot of movements exist at the moment. As far as the future is concerned, the traffic movements will be one, the client herself. Secondly, there won't be any need to bring feed in because hay can be produced on the site, unlike now. Thirdly, there will be occasional visit from a vet. And fourthly, when a foal is being sold, a foal will be taken off the site. But of course, that's something that happens twice or 3 times a year. So the traffic generated by this development will be very, very low.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Councillor Johnson, you put your hand up.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Chair. 2 points I would like to confirm with Mr. Jones. Obviously, the councillor has left the room and so can't respond to some of the points he's mentioned, but in terms of Natural Resources Wales, it says on page 25 of this pack, maybe this was the objection she was mentioning. I'm not sure if you agree with that or whether I've misunderstood. but this may be the point she's making. I would like to ask again regarding GAT and the lawn, the gate, where it is located. To understand, is the gate on a piece of land which is owned by the applicant, or is it on land that falls under the license in the paper end of last year? Thank you for your questions.
Totally wrong totally out of the question with grounds of cost. The second point in relation to the gate, this is a gate erected by my client because she was concerned that there was a concerted effort to establish a right-of-way on this land. People were trespassing without permission. It's not a public right-of-way, so she erected the gate. But with the other people who have a right-of-way over the truck, all the people with the right-of-way over the truck, all the local farmers, have keys of their own to come and go as they please. So that's the answer to your question, hopefully.
Sorry, just Adia.
Is it on the land? Is it on land owned by her? No, it's not.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jones, and thank you, members of the committee. I assume that there are no other points of clarification as there are no other hands up. So I'll ask Steve, please, to come back in and comment on the comments that have just been made by the three speakers.
Thank you, Chairman. If we could just have the presentation up, might be of assistance. I'll start within the site itself and the concerns over the impact on the public right of way. If we just have the slides up, please. Any slides? So, well, the slides will be on.
We're just getting the slideshow back up online.
Okay, thanks. So, yeah, public right of way, as we say, does cross through the site, and you know, the development to some extent will probably very temporarily impact on the right of way, which is for the construction of the access track. But as we said, the access track itself, if we can just get to the site layout plan, please. We just keep running down to the site layout plan. The access track is going to be a stone gravel track on a sub base. As Mr. Jones has said, our council's public right of way officer was consulted on the application. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, there we go. The council's public right of way officer was consulted on the application. He's raised no adverse comments, and pretty much his comments are what you would call kind of informative, really, which is that the public right of way shouldn't be obstructed and it should be safeguarded. One thing that we could potentially do, we often do put informatives on in relation to a public right of way passing through the site. So, I mean, it doesn't have any particular weight in terms, as it's not a planning condition, but it would sort of remind the applicant that their public right of way is running through the site and to safeguard and protect its route for users. So, if members were in favour to support the application, we could potentially add an informative on along those lines, which would be pretty much the same wording that the public right of way officer has set out in his comments on page 20 there we go. Sorry, on page. Can't find it. Sorry, on page 23 of the report. Just on the matters of the gate again, I think it's been sort of well described that, as you say, the applicant owns the applicant. We've had a copy of the title plan of the extent of the ownership of the applicant, so which obviously covers this field and covers quite an extensive sort of number of adjoining fields. But obviously, what we've been shown is the boundary sort of finishes at pretty much at the access lane, if you want to call it that. So, with regarding the access rights, at the moment that gate is there. Whether the application is approved or refused, that gate will remain in place. So that gate is not subject to the application. That gate is, not in any way impacting on the public highway. So whether there's a gate there or is there not a gate there is not a planning reason. And obviously we're not looking at the implication of that gate preventing public access onto private land. Again, that's outside the scope of what we deal with. In terms of consultation, Councillor Cowpe has referred to that. We have done actually quite extensive consultation on this application. It was subject to site notice, and we also publicised the potential impact on the public right-of-way on site and also in the press. So, the site and the proposal has been subject to wider press notice. In relation to the concern about public sewers, obviously none of the statutory constituencies have raised concerns in relation to any sewers under the ground. I can't really comment on that. Obviously, if a sewer is impacted upon that is a public sewer, be a Welsh water sewer, that would be a matter between the applicant and the Welsh Water to resolve. In relation to, I guess, emergency procedures, as I think I've advised Councillor Cowpe earlier today, if the gate is locked, it would really be a matter of the applicant to consider the risk if emergency services need to get into the site for one reason or another. So it's down to the applicant whether they wish to lock the gate behind them. So I think I'm happy to take any more questions from members, but I believe that the access issues are just another point on the parking bays, as we've said quite definitely in the report and as assessed by the highway engineer, that at the top end of the site. If Matt, if we could go down to the bottom of the slideshow, we have got some photos which I think will be of use. If we just keep running down, okay. If we just, okay, yeah, keep going. So yeah, if we could just stop there. Sorry, if we, so that is the view from within the applicant's vehicle, and the gate in question is the gate on the right-hand side, which is open. It's not the little field gate next to that. So that's a view looking northwards, sort of just maybe a couple of 100 meters or so south of the junction with the Westra. And the next photo down on the slideshow shows the entrance out onto the Westra, and as members can see, if it were to be the case that vehicles would have to back up, well, firstly, if there's an argument that the gate is closed, then vehicles wouldn't in any case be able to back up onto the highway. But if the gate were to be open, there is sufficient width at the top of that access to allow for vehicles to wait side by side. And I think it's widest, that access is about 13.4 metres wide, and it narrows down roughly to where that vehicle is to about 6.8 metres, and that's about a depth of 22 to 25 metres. So the highway engineers considered that to be a kind of certainly an acceptable kind of holding area should there be a vehicle meeting another vehicle. But as you said, if the gate is locked at the top of the lane, vehicles couldn't back up. So in terms of kind of day-to-day management and these passing areas, officers have come to the conclusion that really is a private matter, whether they are passing places or not, and whether they are fully usable or not, wouldn't ultimately impact on highway safety. And it's a matter between the various landowners to, accommodate manoeuvring on this private land. So we've got into quite some detail on highway matters within the report, but so we're satisfied that there are no adverse concerns, and as Mr. Jones has said, given that the applicant has a number of sort of fields around the area where the horses are kept, we feel that it's probably likely to be sort of no worse, or probably in terms of wider locality, possibly a reduction in vehicle movements, as these horses will be based on this site rather than kind of moving from a day to day from stabling to grazing. So again, that's a point that's been made in the report as well. I'm happy to come back on any other questions, Chairman, if any other members have any further points. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any members of the committee have any questions, points they want to raise, observations at all? Councillor Champion, you have your hand up, and then Councillor Johnson.
So just to clarify, the only public right of way is sort of diagonally across the field, going sort of north and south beyond, and not down the track. Whereas it was sort of indicated that there was a public right of way. Maybe there was confusion in my mind.
No, I think perhaps Mr. Jones has said, perhaps used the word right of way from the applicant's point of view. So, but the only public right of way, as in, where the public can access is the diagonal route through the site. Yes.
Any other, Councillor Johnson, you did indicate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. I agree with Councillor Champion. It's slightly complex because we're discussing an access lane, we're talking about an access track, we are also talking about rights of way. So putting the three together, makes things complicated. Maybe that's the reason for going on a visit to the site, for it to help us understand what it will look like. Rural development, but also close to Westra and Dinas Powys. The only question left from me, because this is relatively deep, question if Stephen could explain a little more on the archaeological work needed here. It's part of the report, but I would like a little more explanation. Also, Welsh Water response, which mentions, as Councillor Cowpe said, the need for apparatus, using the apparatus all the time. If he could explain how all this will work under this arrangement. Because question of access complicates things. I agree with the suggestion to restate the points for public rights of way. Because of course this crosses the field where there's an intention to build you say construction management plan, but I don't think that's part of the conditions that we have.
Steve, do you want to respond?
Yes, of course. Yeah, just so touching in order, just in terms of archaeology, page 37 of the report. So HENEB, who are our archaeological consultants, were consulted on the application. So the historic environment records do show that whilst there are no recorded sites within the area, there are a substantial number of archaeological sites ranging from Roman to medieval within the immediate vicinity of the application site, which includes Dinas Powys Common to north, etc., etc. So without going into detail of what HENEB have said, as a result of their kind of assessment, given the nature of archaeological resource in the area, they do feel that there is a high possibility that archaeological remains may be encountered during groundworks. associated with the development, which includes any site clearance, etc. So accordingly, they've requested an archaeological watching brief to be secured, which we have added in condition 7, which is, you know, relatively standard. Just in terms of Welsh Water, their comments are referenced on page 25, and effectively it's really more of a comment really in relation to the fact that the site is crossed by one of their assets, being a public sewer. This comes up, as you can imagine, you know, nearly all sewers are public, even in sort of domestic contexts, so it comes up an awful lot. So it's really for the applicant to contact Welsh Water in relation to, and really for the applicant to identify the line of the public sewer, to ensure that there was no development within the protected zone, which they measure 3 metres from the centre line. Obviously, they don't really know where the line is, so it's usually the case of the applicant would need to ensure that they establish the exact line of the sewer. I can't recall. Sorry, apologies, Councillor Johnson. Was there another matter that you wanted clarification on?
I normally see some sort of condition regarding a construction plan, but I don't see a condition of that sort here. Have I missed it? Is that question clear? Have I lost Stephen?
We haven't put one on. Again, in terms of we only generally put them on if, for example, environmental health or highways specifically ask for one, and it's usually where the development is of a scale that could likely cause disruption to the local highway network. We could potentially, if it allays some members' fears, we would be happy to impose such a condition, which would set up the type of vehicles that would be accessing the site, hours of delivery, and how they would manage and control sort of pollution, et cetera, materials during construction. If that's something that Councillor Johnson and the wider members feel would be beneficial, we could certainly put that on.
Okay, previously stated. Yeah.
Something to consider, yes. It would be something to consider, yes, I think.
A further condition for the construction management plan. Okay. So, our members, Councillor Williams, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. I just missed your last bit about the condition there. I'm assuming that we'll agree to that we have a sort of management plan for construction. I think that'll be useful. I think all the other points have been covered off, particularly the right of way for me. I was concerned about that, the horse in the field. We just know that sometimes that developments encroach on that right of way. The answer's been given that I'm reassured that they will stay as is, and there won't be any disruption to them. Covered off all the other parts, so I move officer's recommendation.
So, Councillor Payne.
Yeah, I can second officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. So the officer's recommendations have been moved and seconded. I see no, Councillor Wilson, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to support that as well.
Okay.
I'd like to see if there's anyone in opposition. If not, I think we should.
I was about to ask exactly that. You preempted me. Are there any members of the committee who are opposed to this application with the inclusion of the construction management plan as a condition? and the, sorry,
Condition regarding the public right of way, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just for clarity, it would be an informative just so that the applicant is fully aware of the, you know, to avoid any impacts on the public right of way.
Yeah.
It's not a condition, it's just a note.
yeah, I thought that I'd read that already in there, but yeah, certainly that there is stuff about keeping it open and under no circumstances sort of blocking it off, except for vital, very briefly for vital work, I think is the essence of what's said. So I see no objections to that. So that matter's agreed. Thank you all. There, I have no other business. Our next meeting is, I've written it down, 15th of May. So I wish you all a happy Easter and see you on the other side.